Okay, good afternoon, traders. Well, it's midday, more than likely. Hope we're all doing well, and welcome to Trade Setup live stream for the 22nd of June. Okay, so it's been a bit of a change up since the last stream on Monday. Been a bit of action to the downside, so weren't quite expecting that, to be quite honest. On the ASX, had a couple of good strong days up, and then pretty much gave it all back again. So we're back down to close to where we started. So we're going to take a look at the ASX obviously today, and I think it's one focus. What we just thought we'd have a bit of a chat about today, a bit of timeliness to this, is looking at a few short setups and just what we look for in short positions. So anyone that's interested in that, you can find it quite handy. And there was one other. I was going to have a chat a bit of an article that I looked at. It's regarding the US, and just want to point out a key thing about what's happening, say, overseas. You've got the FTSE, the S&P, the way they're lined up, and the way what looks like happening over there as compared to the ASX200. Now, I think that's pretty much the gist of it for today. What we'll look at, and then obviously get ready and chuck in any trades that you want to take a look at. Just put it in the chat a bit later on. So any questions you got along the way too, feel free to chuck it in the chat. Because a lot of what I say could be could be garbage, but I like it anyway. So yeah, feel free to add your two bobs worth. Also, for anyone that's new, just looking at the page there, we've got the Twitter on the top left-hand corner. So we're going to start to get a bit more active in Twitter and Facebook also, and that's the top right-hand corner. And also we've got the YouTube's channel down the bottom right. So if you just subscribe to that, you get an alert every time we go live. And we are, if anyone is interested, we're going to hopefully look to, and if Davin's listening, we're going to get organised, look at putting together another meetup group and have another bit of a stream on not this Monday coming, the Monday after, probably that night, but we just got to organise ourselves for that. So just keep an eye out for a bit of an alert on that, and you'll be able to join in the chat too. So we'll just be talking about what we look at. So it'll go on, if anyone viewed the last one, the meetup group, the talk we had there, Dav and I, the presentation we did, it'd be a bit further in depth on that, I guess, and a few other things of what we look for and what we're looking at when we're doing our trades, and sort of how we biased ourselves. Now, there's one other thing too. Oh, also with the Twitter and anything we sort of post there, if you're following that, it'd be much appreciated if you can give us a bit of a like there, just to try and get the word out and what we're doing. And we're slowly upgrading a few other things to websites, so keep an eye out for that. Now, let's get my pretty face. Well, it's not so pretty today, but let's get my face up and running. Up and running sounds a bit of a silly choice of words, but here we go. Now, ASX, so that's ASX not looking so great the last couple of days. We're up 30 today, but that's pretty much making back what we gave up the last few days, making back a bit today, which we did expect a bit of a bounce after the futures last night. Again, clawed back a bit of ground, even with the US down slightly. So they clawed back, and we obviously expect it to open up a bit today and a bit of bargain hunting around. Now, if anyone, the bears, I think we're in that sort of stage. We'll get up the chart now, no mucking around. This is the XAO, which is the 300, top 300, I think, or the All Ords. I prefer the XJO. Now, you can see that there's not going to be much difference between the two. So that's the ASX, the 200. So you can see we're coming into sort of that region there, and if we just expand on that, probably to make it a bit clearer, in that region there where it's still above that 56.25, that 56.50 zone, which was rejected probably a week or so ago, when we had that push down from just below 5800, that push down, extend out through this support zone around 56.75, rejected that for a few days, so it got bought up just through there, and it's holding up above that key level at 5600. So technically, it's all still looking good. The longer term trend is still intact, but we are looking like potentially rolling over. But the fact which I did like a few days ago, and I think you probably all agree, is that nice strong move up through over a couple of days, punching up through 5800. Now, we just made that lower high, and then we had the last couple of days pretty much all the way back down again, selling all the way back down. But still, it is in a zone where if it can hold up above here and bring in some buys, and we start working up to a higher low, may take a few days yet. That would be a nice positive sign, especially after this break, what we saw just here, up through 58. On the flip side, you just got to be cautious too, and always try to look at what's happening from both sides of the fence. Don't just sit on one side or the other. Just so, I mean, if you have got a nice sizable portfolio, you don't want to be giving up too much gains if this market topples over. So what I mean by looking at both sides of the fence is just, okay, could this roll over? And it could just as easily. You had a nice pop-up through 58, so that can be viewed as a bit of a flush out. And you got that lower high there. So if this pops up and then builds another lower high, you'd expect that to be targeting through 56.50 and then essentially down to 5600, and then we'll just have to see how it reacts down at that zone. But still a fair bit of work to do, and the overseas markets are actually not looking too bad at all. So one thing I did want to note, if a lot of you, when you're following the alerts, what we talk about the S&P being well and truly stacked on the short side, meaning that there's a lot of short sellers out there, and really what we see that as is fuel for a move higher, and it has been playing out that way consistently for the last few months. I think we originally alerted to a long position on the S&P 500 a few months ago, can't quite remember, and it's been squeezing the shorts out, and they just keep loading up on the short side every time you see some sort of contractive action. Something like this, you've got a few lower highs pulling in, shorts will load up, they get squeezed back out on a pop-up, and you get a nice, strong, healthy move higher. Now, that's happening on the US, it's happening in the FTSE. We probably just go over to some charts here, and they are, I think I just checked it now, so we've got the US is somewhere around 80% loaded up on the short side. This is more the retail traders. What is it? Not the DAX, I'm thinking, I've lost my mind already. The Dow is about 75% short, so they're loading up, and that's just nice fuel to move higher. The FTSE is around 65%. The DAX is somewhere around 60%. So you can see that they're all sort of weighted to the short side, which to me is, if you that in conjunction with a nice little setup, an entry setup, you don't just go and jump into it on the long side, because it could easily squeeze you out on the way when it's contracting lower, building a move higher. And then, then it does go on without you. So you just got to be careful. Obviously, that's sort of what we look at for sort of getting a bit of a bias up or down. And what potentially can happen is there enough fuel to move this market in a certain way, and then looking for the setups, the entries. Now, that's what's happening overseas, obviously in the FTSE, the DAX, we just mentioned there, the US, both the S&P and the Dow. Now, in the ASX, it's a bit different story. It's probably more weighted about 60 to 65% on the long side. So it's about 63%. So that's just saying, if we look at it from the flip side, there could be a bit of, that's why we're backing off a bit, because if everyone's loaded long, you just run out of steam, you run out of punters, you run out of traders to keep pushing this, grinding this market higher. So you need a bit of a flush out to get them back on the sidelines, ready and raring to go back again if this market is going to head high. And again, you're just looking for setups. So if that's the case, that could be why we're just getting a bit choppy at the moment and just sort of hitting the skids at the moment. And we had a decent, healthy sell-off the last couple of days. But if that just starts easing off and we start getting a few punters on the short side, start building up, then that could be the move, that what we want to see anyway, for the fuel building for that squeeze back up and just following what's happening over the US, what's happening over in Europe. But we'll see how we go. So in saying all that, there was a nice little article. Does anyone agree with just what we're saying there? So that's sort of a key thing, what we like to look at. We want to see that if everyone's loaded one way, you don't want to be joining the fray. Particularly, I mean, if it's a bullish market, obviously, you're buying the pullbacks and just trying to get in some quality stocks on the move up, and you really got to take note of how extended we are. And that's probably another point. If you go back to the weekly or the daily, this move up here, so we've had that move up to the 6,000, big healthy contraction, took out a few of these higher lows, then built another move up, so we're coming up to that 6,000 again. It's really holding trend on the weekly, and it's getting a bit extended now. Actually, in saying that, look at that weekly stochastics, it's getting a bit oversold where we are, so there's a nice reason why this could hold up above that 56.50, about roughly in this zone here. Path of least resistance, that's exactly it, Dav. I was going to say something cheeky, and I thought it was probably a bit too much. Get carried away sometimes. So, I mean, that's where we stand at the moment, but we thought it'd be prudent. I think there's a few little short setups that we're going to have a bit of a chat about today. So if anyone's got something they think could be looking good on the short side, just pop it in the chat. I've got a list of about 6 here. I don't know if I get through all of them, but there's been a few that we've. FMG is one that we said quite a while ago. Be careful on the short side. It was just looking great, so we'll have a bit of a look at that and why we viewed that way. And there's also, I think Dav liked BHP a while ago as a short, and it's gone really well. We've also got a few that are probably early stage. There's one STO we'll look at as a prime example of when and where and what we're sort of looking for in a short position. And it's really, if you've followed us for a while, it's the flip side of what we look for in the longs. Evidence of shorts stacking up. It's just starting to struggle. They're starting to take control and then roll over. That's that. Thanks, Paul. You just reminded me too. I got your email and I was going to have there was a couple of examples there I just wanted to talk about too. So let me put those in a list. There was Paul, was it MTR and CWN? So Paul's been great. He's been passing through a few things he's worth looking at. So I don't know, both of them. I've got. No, that's true. I've got the other email too. To be honest, I've never heard of that guy. I don't know if Davin has. I just got to find out what was his name, Paul, if you remember. Are you talking about the trader Cameron Mitchell? So Dav, if you've heard of Cameron Mitchell, I never have. But in all honesty, what you said, he's spruiking, and I guess I don't want to be negative towards anyone, but when someone whips out 92% success rate, I really find that hard to believe. You either you're holding your lose until they bounce back, and you're taking small profits, small gains. You're going to look at what's happening there. But that's an interesting little sales pitch, I guess. Trade with me. Okay. How'd you find him then, Paul, anyway? Convincing, or did you find what he was saying interesting? Anyway, for everyone else that Paul just sent through an email, he did a nice talk. 1% profit, and there you go. Stats a bit high. No wonder his stats are high. How's he overall? What sort of returns is he looking at? That seems like not the best way to trade, to be honest. I think you have a bad run then, it can wipe out everything you've made. Yeah. All right. No, I'll be happy to give you a call about that too, Paul, or just give me a call later on after the stream if you want. Happy to have a better chat about that. I think I find it interesting just to learn a bit more. And it's always good knowing more about competitors and what they're trying to say. So currency trades, all right. Now you've thrown it. All right. Well, we might start now. Article. That's what I just wanted to say. I found this interesting. I don't know if anyone follows. I've got to find it myself. If anyone knows much about bond spreads and the yield curves, so I've been watching that for a while and just looking at yield curves, they're starting to flatten. Okay, so in the US anyway, so we're not sort of talking about here, and this is just a nice little, and this is probably why you're getting these continued moves higher. So we've got the yield curve. When they start to flatten, that's generally, their outlook on interest rates is not going to be raising interest rates, inflation's in check, that sort of thing. But I think they were saying traditionally, when there's a flattening of the yield curve, so further out, so near-term interest rates are seen to be the same as what they see as further out, longer-term interest rates. They see them going to come in line, which means no interest rate rise. When they're looking at it from that point of view, you've got to remember who's buying these bonds. There's a massive market there of funds in the US, massive funds with money that they put into to try to get the yield. So they're chasing yield from bonds. Now, if they're stepping aside, they're not buying them because their interest rate, there's a flattening yield curve. They've still got to start chasing yield for their fund. They've got mandated to be into something. They can't just be sitting in cash. So where does that leave them then if they're not? And I think there has been quite a few stepping aside from buying bonds, and it's quieting down that market because of the yield curve anyway, because of that flattening. So they've been going in. So that's a good argument why this US has been going quite strong, even though some of the valuations, the stock evaluations, are a bit overcooked. You get a lot of these big funds still trying to chase yield, trying to chase returns. I just saw you, Paul. You're a legend. Oh, by the way, we're going to whack up a new. I just saw Paul's comment. Everyone, we're going to whack up a new website. So just keep an eye on that. We're just working on it now. Boys are in the background tarting it up. So that's good. So what we're talking about with bonds, the yield curve. So if they're flat, if it's a flattening yield curve, these big funds, massive funds with all this cash, you've got to start to try to find, chasing yield, chasing returns, and they're going into equities. So, and they're saying traditionally when it goes flat, for that to invert and start picking up, it can take a long time. So don't expect when it's, that the yield curve is flattening that it's going to turn around quickly. Now, when that happens, I said traditionally also that's followed by equities will just keep continuing high and they turn around a lot later. So let me just find some of the stats they said. So that if that's the case, then there could be a lot more room to move on the upside in the US and potentially overseas as well. We don't know what's happening over there. I just found that as an interesting point that you're getting people that are loading up short because they think it's overcooked, yet they could just be, there could be a lot of room to move. So there's fuel there in the way of retail traders selling short the market. That are ready to get squeezed out. You've got funds that are having to put money somewhere because if they've got, say, a 30% cash mandate, meaning that 70%'s got to be in the market somewhere, bonds, whatever it is, and they don't want to go into bonds, they've got to put it into equities, then there could be some more buying to come, chasing yield, chasing returns. So I hope that's making sense, guys. It's just a nice little article saying why potentially it could be some more room to move. I just got to find out. I don't know. Anyway, actually I'll put the link up. Just copy. Let me just put this into chat. If anyone could just read that. It's a Bloomberg article. Yeah. So if you want, just have a bit of a read of that later on. Interesting. So in saying all that, that's why I find it interesting what's happening over in the US, with them retail, everyone being loaded short, the potential to go higher. And what we're seeing here is that there's a few people more could be getting squeezed out on the long side as the market grinds lower. But all in all, I do see it favourable. I do see a favourable move on the upside if the US continues to grind high, and they're coming into reporting season soon. So if they get some good results, the market's going to pop up. I'd expect us to follow them, and I think we're coming to a good zone where there could be some nice support building for the longer term and a longer term move higher. We might get a bit of a washout first. We'll just see how it goes. Now over to firstly, a couple of stocks from Paul, since he's our number. Oh, wrong spot. What do we got here? TLS is one of our shorts, which is that's coming close. MTR. On the long side, Paul, I think we might have sent out, I can't quite remember if we sent out an alert on this one. Do like it. Yeah, on the long side. Let me just go. Just bear with me 1 second there, guys. I've got a girl knocking at the door. Let me just put that up there. Now, get rid of that. All right, so you can see this is sort of the key level I've been focused on, and you can see this market is holding some high lows here and here, and it's just popped up. It's got a key level also right up here, so it could run into a bit of resistance, and if we just set it up like we normally do, it is looking like it's doing okay, to be quite honest. Just trying to find, anyway. So it's looking like it's coming out of this nice big long move down, starting to get some buying support down at that 260 to 270 zone, popping up. I still would like to see essentially, it's touched up here a few times, holding some higher lows, and the most recent one's just pushed out there. I would ideally like to see maybe a bit of contraction lower, a bit of a retest, and then build, because that's going to drag in a few sellers, probably a bit more, bit of a retest to some, maybe this high low here, 290 or down 280, flush it out, and then see if we can get that squeeze back up again and see if it really starts to take off and accelerate higher. I don't mind when I don't particularly this price action doesn't not scary as such, but popping up. I don't like that, to see that straight off a low. So it's just turned on a dime, heading down, turned on a dime here, pop up. Because I do expect a bit of a washout and then go again. I'd love to see a secondary major high low, off that wash some of these late buyers just in here, wash them out a bit, build that higher low, and then go. So this type of price action, what we just shown just off here. Love to see that. Now MTA, what was the other one, Paul? CWN. There's another one that we've been focused on. Now there was something about this one. You're looking at it from the long side. Yeah, was it the long side you're looking at, or this? Oh, I can't remember what it was, but it's showing some signs. I'm just not overly excited about it. I mean, you're starting to get a bit overbought just watching underside. Yeah, well, it's good that you see it undersided, because I am a bit too. I think on the weekly it's looking like it's getting a bit extended to the upside, which would, it could be that this resistance is holding at 14. That could be a lower high. And then you see, if we just go back, we'll draw that. If that's the case, I like blues. Then you're going to get that sort of contraction higher, holding below that 1400. If that's a lower high, then we might, essentially we've got that push up to here, 1340, and then we start, that's the pullback there. The daily is a bit extended to the downside, so it could have another go up, build a major lower high, and then start working its way down. Whether it comes down to here and start building off that support, something like this, which would be great. Then that'd be nice to enter into as a long. But the weekly is a bit overcooked, so it seems like on a weekly longer term, it's struggling to get up to that 1400. And if that's the case, I think you're right to be a bit undecided at the moment. MTR is looking a bit, because it's had a big push lower. Just go back to MTR. I think it's the weekly that nice strong move up. I know it's over the period of a few years, and then contraction lower. It's just starting to look like it's holding up around this, and it's starting to get that curving bottom, which I don't mind at all. So I think MTR is a better goer than CWN at the moment. But then again, I mean, that weekly, I think it's got a bit of work to do either way. If we can just get that pull back in it and start building a weekly higher low, that would be awesome. And then I think that could take us up. But then you're going to run up to that 1400. It's going to be a bit of resistance just up there. All right, on to the shorts. Let's get stuck into it now. Now, start off with STO. If anyone's got a short position they want to just have a bit of a chat about, feel free. Now, this is just the weekly. Or you can see, that major consolidation as a longer term through 2011 to 14 pretty much, and they just gave up the ghost there. And if you just go and draw this up on a weekly basis, I love looking for shorts. Sorry, I like looking for my shorts. They're in the cupboard. Dad joke. All right, so you got that type of price action there when you're running up into some sort of resistance, and then you've got a minor lower high, say in comparison. So you got these lower highs just holding. The market's grinding higher off a support. So that there, I mean, ideally look at that. If you can probably drill down to a daily, that's a nice little capitulation just in here. That would be ideally your entry. I mean, the hardest thing with that is that it's sold down quite hard. It's broken straight through, and it's broken through a key level at whatever that 1150. Pop back up to test it. So I bet if you look at that on the daily, it's going to be a nice little bad joke. I thought I was good at jokes anyway. I should do a poll. You don't get to vote, Dave. All right. So you got that push down, that pop back up. So, and you can just see that capitulation through after the amount of time it's spent banging around that zone. So he's between 9 and 13, 14 bucks. So it's a big wide range, but it spent a lot of time banging around through there. Obviously, oil, I think that was about the time oil's copped it a bit. Yeah, that was into the end of 2015, start of 2015. It copped it and it picked up, but this kept selling off. So on the short side, on that weekly, that's an awesome entry. But even through here, you can see that, contracting back up, it lost out again, and potentially entry-wise, you probably got your lower high building here, and that, as an entry off, if you go down to the daily, and that led to some good sell-off, and you got contraction high. A bit tougher in here, I'd say, but this type of price here, it's just come back up, and then you see that the highs are not taking out the previous highs very much at all. Santos, STO. Sorry, Paul. So that type of price action, when you get a good sharp move higher, and you can see this is a weekly. Just if you can see that this candle here is quite a good shock to the upside, and then they're running out of steam. So when they don't take out the previous highs very much at all, you can see through here, and then you've got this little minor double top, and then you start making a lower high, and you can see that's just it's looking great. Now that would have been on a daily too, a nice little entry. It's just struggling there, but then you've got these lower highs working all the way down. So if we go down to the daily, I've got to just take note of 2015. If we can see if we can get that 2015 short. Just want to see if we can get that. It didn't work very well, did it? All right, there you go. So that, if I'm right, so that's just what we looked at. You know, that rising support. You got the high lows, a major level through 1150. Look at that beautiful little setup there with off. Oh, geez, I'm not very good at this. Too much coffee, shaky hands. There you go. See that little pop up there, and it's just struggled. Then you got even a lower high within a major lower high. That for a short setup, I reckon that's great. Does that make sense? And then you got that absolute capitulation. If you just sold it through here, you got your risk. You know exactly where your risk is. There's not going to be much. Look at the payout there on that short position. So there's times when it really is the shorts can really play out, and they play out quite fast. So they can go hard and fast, which is great. Whereas they can grind higher on the upside. So you got to be a bit more patient on the upside. And the good thing is, if you're like me, a bit less patient, they turn out to be quite nice. You know, they happen fast. You get it, you back out again. But you've really got to be, on the same token, just be wary when you're trading short. You could probably be a bit more onto it, if that makes sense, a bit more on the ball, which again is probably not one of my strong suits. But anyway, so if we go and just looking at these type of setups through here, you got struggling up here. If we just go to the draw function, so we have some resistance up at 5. You know, we got that push down. It's tried to build that higher low, and then you've got this lower high in here. And these sorts of moves, you know, you could have sold it in here, sold it in here, sold it through here, and then look at it. It's just the pressure on the downside has been really, really good on Santos. And that was the attempt to try to push it up. But as soon as you get that lower high, and then this lower high, that's a heads up where we're not going to get up to that $5 region, and we're going to see more weakness and potentially pushing down right down to 260 zone to those lows. So that's a great example if you were looking at it there, which unfortunately we weren't. To start looking for sells, short positions, you know, as you get these pop through the low, pop up a lower high, you know, you got these moves down here, and this good strong one down here, and again off that lower high. Does that make sense? So like what we look for on the upside, you're looking for higher lows to buy into, and that's nice. It's just a good example or evidence that buyers are jumping in at higher lows. They're buying it at slightly higher prices. This is the exact opposite. Sellers are jumping in at lower prices. They just want out. Either that, or they're just, you know, they're shorting it for entering a trade, but they want to be in that trade on the downside, or they just want to be out. They're sick of holding something that's not working. Does that make sense? What we're looking for on that Santos, a great example. Just go over to, turn that down. What was it? We got FMG was one that we had, and you can see that major trend. If we can just draw that was, I think we've spoken about this before, but as a short, it's still going. We don't know where, and I think commodities are bearing the brunt of some selling lately. You can see that nice move out there. That was clear as a bell, really. You struggled. You got that little wash out of 7. And this move here, when you broke through this uptrend, and then you got the lower high, ideal straight through. And you probably got a couple of days where you could have got short just in there through 6. And then bang, on we go. Up a buck. So what's that? About 20% thereabouts. So that there, you know, you've got your lower highs when sellers, especially after that washout of the previous high at 7, and that was a major weekly zone as well. I think just up here, somewhere around 720, 7 to 725, major weekly resistance. So when you get that and a major uptrend, it's gonna, you know that every man and his dog is loaded long in that, you know, and then that's just a lot of fuel. If you've got no one else left to buy it, what happens? You get a lower high, breakdown of that trend. You need people to be put back on the sidelines if this was going to go higher. So that's, you know, ideal opportunity to short a market, and you can see that's still holding trend down. Just broke through some lows yesterday, I think it was. Popped up a bit today, up 4% today, but it's still showing some weakness. Who knows where it's going to? So I think maybe not a tad late to be short on this. You'd want a deeper correction, holding below, say 550, deeper correction, back up, and then another maybe a minor lower high to work off that one. Now, Dav's favourite, BHP. He thinks it was his idea, but I reckon it was mine. I think, where were you looking at it, Dav? It was somewhere. BHP is a short. Again, so look at the fuel that we've had to push this market higher. You've got that there. I think it was right in here. And again, the difference between here and here, the two differences there, you still got that trend up. This potentially could be a higher low, and then we're popping back up, and then we could easily just go bang. So if you're shorting it in here, expecting it to break down, you want to see evidence of it breaking down first, which is what you got with this move. Just tick that off. With this move down, that's the evidence. Okay, that's your heads up that there's weakness coming into this BHP. So we're going into contraction. So there's a lot of fuel, like I said, built up for that move higher from way back. Don't know when. For actually a long time. Contracting lower, so the first breakdown is good evidence, and then I think Davin was looking at just around about here. So he's got a nice little risk reward. If you're shorting it in here, potentially that's a nice zone to short it. You're extended to the upside, struggling, can't get up to the previous lower high. It's not looking good, and then you can see the sellers starting to take control again. Proof it was yours. I'm sure I put that video up, didn't I? Sure, we were talking about it. Anyway, as you probably noticed, guys, Davin and I talk a bit of rubbish together. Keeps you sane when you're staring at charts for so long. And it's good fun too. I think he's got the upper hand at the moment. All right. So that's a nice, and you can see that the setup we're looking for, you've got a strong move up, coming into resistance, running out of steam, and you can see the lower highs. So at that stage there, you're not confirmed that it's breaking down. It could hold up here and then build for another move higher. Instead, it just broke through, popped back up. So then on that first retracement, you're looking for that lower high to build evidence and then sell into that, which turned out quite nicely. What was the other ones? We've got BHP. Wow. I don't know if Wow was one that's maybe in the early stages. Let's get onto the weekly. Yeah, see that one. This here, potentially, you've had nice pop up, pull back, build a higher low, another pop up to build that higher high. But then if you get down to the daily, this is starting to look as a bit of weakness. So I'd like to see if it can pop up, build a major lower high. Then I think this could be showing some good signs of weakness. And if we just draw, actually, let me just draw that up again. Sorry, guys. Woolies. Drawing that up. Yeah, so that's a bit like BHP. So it could be pushing down this zone, and we might get that push down, then getting some higher lows, and then going from there. You might get that type of price action building and breakout. But either way, it's contracting. You can see the lower highs working into a major potential zone for a higher low. But if this pops up, what you'd ideally like to see is that breakthrough support and then pop back up and get weakness again, just like BHP. I'd love to see that, and I think that could be on because the weekly's in not a bad position either. Now, anyone got any other ideas on shorts? I've got a couple more here lined up. Telstra's one that I just want to chat about. I think Telstra's very, very close for us. I just like it for the just having a bit of a go at it. My new favourite short setup. All right. I think that's one I told you about too, Dav, wasn't it? I'll just have a look at it first. Telstra. Now, the reasoning why... This is the biggest problem with Telstra, a short, for instance, is just the fact that it's had quite a good move down. You had a bit of a flush out. But see the weekly. If you can look at the weekly, just the latest price action, where it is on the stochastics, it's great. It's starting to roll over there on the stochastics. It's in a great little zone. It's had a good retracement, but it can't get anywhere near the previous lower high at 530, and that's something just to keep in mind. Amazon hype. Yeah, I think it's a bit of hype if you ask me. I don't tend to read into it too much. I think that's going to kill a few things over here. It's going to put pressure on. But then there's articles I read about Amazon coming over here. Are you talking about into the food chains? That food outlets bringing it over to Aussie. The pressure for Coles and things. To be honest, you probably know more about the fundamentals than me, Paul. I'm a technical man, but while I'm waiting for a comment. So anyway, that move on Telstra, like I said, pushing. It's had a good strong leg down, contraction back up to a lower high around 590. I think we're short somewhere around there. I can't remember now. It's pushed down to that 470. Really, that leg's still going. It could potentially go more. So flicking it, everything's lining up. It's just, are we towards the end of that trend down? It's not new to anyone that moved down. And I know you were saying, Paul, the dividends are coming up, so it could be buyers jumping in there. But just looking at this latest price action, it's not strong at all. All right, you've just got this. If I can just get the last, that's probably a bit better. I think the price action we're seeing here, not strong, and that's so that I think it's beautiful price action for a short. It's just the timing of it's getting a bit late in that move down. So I like this. You've got this move up, leg up, pull back, some buyers stepping in, pushing up to new highs, but then an even sort of roughly even move down like we saw, but this is not. That's not even to this move up. It's struggling, just to push through the highs, just pop through the highs. Okay, then we pulled back, another high low. We popped up through the highs by about a cent or two, and then struggled. Then we got this move down that's just popped down through these lows, and then we got this little move back up. Well, we shouldn't have yelled then. A little move back up, and then bang, it looks like we're just potentially rolling over through those lows, and that could be your lower high you're looking for. So from there, it's really where to. Maybe 420. It could be a short-lived trade, or it could be another, a capitulation and just banging straight down to $4 from here. Just have to see. Yeah. All right. AOG. I just noticed. All right. AOG. Let me just get a better chart on that. Now it doesn't look like a lot there. This is a daily chart. If you're going from left to right, it's had that move up. It's a bit choppy. It's accelerated higher. It's got this big move down, taking out the previous higher low, somewhere around 305. It's had another push up. So as soon as they take out a higher low, that's evidence. And from when it's dropped quite heavily down, it's a good heads up. Be careful if you're going to buy. All right. So you get these. Then you do tend to get a buying further. There's always someone willing to buy it for whatever reason. It's popped up and it's just been struggling. You just washed out that high. Previous high, it just couldn't go on with it. Then you've got this price action here as a lower high, major lower high at 335, and it's just pushed down through yesterday through 310. So it's still contending with that higher low. I'll see this low down at around 294, 5, 6, 290 to 295. So I think it's popped down. It may have to retrace some, bit of reversion back to the mean, pop back up. But then if you go and look at this weekly chart, I think I'll probably just drill in on that. This is what I'm liking. The weekly is, you can see it's quite clear for me that there's some weakness coming into the market. If you disagree, go away. I'm banning you. All right, so that move up there, you can see, okay, this move down has just washed out this low through here. So that move up, higher highs, good part of over a year, close to a year and a half, bang, then you got a breakdown out of that uptrending support zone, and then you've got pretty much a lower high, potential lower high, and it's just starting to get confirmed on the weekly. But I think on the weekly, there's the key levels down there. It could easily hold up and then start building. If you've got that support there, it's popped down here. It chops around like that, and then we've just got a washout down here. We could easily get, if we just change colours, maybe a bit of a washout of that zone, then it just pop back up and start holding some higher lows and then go and you smash straight up through, was it 310? But either way, it's just looking like if that is a major lower high, I'd ideally like to see this and then boom, or even from there, just that contraction, and then it just gives up, and then you've got a nice entry zone. You can quantify your entry quite easy, and then just see where it goes to from here, because it could be on for young and old. All right. Now, Dev, you mentioned some BXB and HVN. That's mine. I swear you're stealing it. Oh. Yeah, see that? It's gone. It's had this retracement back up, and that's definitely on the move on the march lower. Looking at that, you've just washed out a key level on the weekly chart just here at 950. It's gapping down too, so whatever's happening there, Brambles don't know, but it's had a reaction back up after we broke through that higher low here, and that's a strong zone too, that higher low. It's a strong high low, it's a weekly high low, nice little support zone, because you've got these lower highs working down into it, and then we've got that new leg up with higher lows, and then we're starting to get lower highs. It's worked down, just broken through there, reacted back up. So if you drop it down to the daily, so we're looking potentially, is this going to be a zone to short it? Go down to the and look at that stochastic too. We're getting bought up quite hard, but it's getting sold into just as hard or harder, and you're just struggling to get anywhere near the previous lower highs. So get into the daily as potential zone. Look at that. Yep, this was mine, Dave. I'm sure of it. I just put volume on that, and I know why he's looking at that. You can just see at nice early stages potentially of this rolling over. We draw that up. You can see where it's just struggling to get through that zone there, and it's got a few, it's sort of consolidated through there, and we're just popping out the downside. So if we can get that move down, pop back up, then I think get that lower high, maybe, and I think that's got a lot of room to move. It would be, you'd expect it to be targeting down to 9. At the very least, I mean, from there, who knows? Let's just see if you're copying me again, Dave. HVN. Yeah. So it's still... Harvey Norman's just broken through a key sort of zone through here as well, 375. It's just touched on it. Maybe it's washed it out, but... Yeah, I don't know if I like this one as much. I don't like to say. Only because it's pushed down, like you said, it's had a heavy selling down here. I wouldn't mind seeing it pop back up, major lower high. But it's just getting a bit oversold, but that's definitely, actually, one thing to keep an eye on. What I see anyway, what I'm looking for. Is get rid of you. I don't like that. Just take it from here. Is that it? Yep, that'll do. So feel free, guys, to put anything into the chat, anything you want to look at, long or short. Doesn't have to be shorts right now. Not keen at these levels, yeah. But I like that sort of, you can see that price action. This could be a longer term tanking. You know, if you're building your trade that way, I think you're right. It's tanked quite a bit into that zone, but longer term, we could pop up, build, maybe a prime zone around that 440 if that's just a recent lower high, probably on the daily too. May contract back up as bargain hunters buy it and then find more selling and then rolling over from there. Then it might be a reason to sell it, and it might come straight down through this sort of 360, 350 zone. Short answer, I'm an idiot. Paul. Now, XRO, I got it a bit late, and I just to explain that, try to justify myself. There's been a few in the past. The weekly, I think the weekly's got a lot of potential on XRO. So that was it. That was it for the other one anyway. But XRO, just to answer Paul's question. Anything else, guys, feel free to chuck it in. I'm going to be going for another 15 minutes or so anything at all. XRO was one I really, really liked. I caught it a bit late, I think, when I really started taking notice of it. And I'll show you where... It's probably the first alert up here. I expected a bit of reaction down, and this is where I can get caught. I expected, because we pushed up into this resistance around previous high. I would have loved to have seen it earlier on and really taken notice. And I think drawing up that prime zone, and you can probably see it, what we look for. I find this is an awesome trade, obviously a bit late. So you got a high up here, just a touch below, but you're building this nice longer term structure. And back on the weekly, just go back to that weekly. That structure looks great, and I think obviously we're coming up into this bit of resistance here, so we might react off there. I'm hoping we are, and we're not just going to build, but only because the weekly's getting a bit extended up here. No reason why it can't keep going higher, so it might have to be bite the bullet time and just seeing what's happening up here. I'd like a bit of a deeper correction, wash out a few of these longs that are built up through here, and then a major higher low to build, and then on we go. That's what I'm looking for right now. Didn't enter long in here because I think we're coming up to a major resistance zone where we are extended on the weekly, blah, 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 and then I expect a bit of reaction lower just as we get a bit of profit taking and considering what the market's doing. But just in going back to entries, what we did miss, I find this a prime right through here, and you can see that that's beautiful. I don't see it as a breakthrough here as good. We popped up to that resistance zone, and it's inside another major lower high, so I think off some higher lows. That all for me, when we're contracting, the market's contracting with lower highs, but it's holding some serious higher lows. That there as an entry, and you can see what's happened since there. That's beautiful in hindsight. That was awesome. And even up here, I think this is where we spotted it. I just did not buy it, alert it through there. And if you can see, just through 20, so it popped up through 20, contracted a bit. I really should have got on board through there, and that's when I was looking at it. Just missed it. Just dumb. Long answer short, a bit dopey. So you can see there, and that even that entry was beautiful. I mean, you can see we're working off higher lows. We're just broken some serious zone, bit of contracting, holding some beautiful zones, and then you got that acceleration higher. So really some nice opportunities on that one. When we started looking at it was around here. Missed that. Would have loved to have seen it prior to get a nice clean entry. You can see that's what I view as a nice prime entry, hanging around the highs. If you're expecting a good pullback, it didn't do that. Break through the highs, away we go. You know exactly where your risk is. Yeah, so Paul, there you go. Anything else you want to look at, guys? Just before JBH, did we go over that? Yeah, we did. Have to keep an eye on that one. So that's looking weak in here. The weekly, I don't mind the weekly as such, but you'd want that. I think there's a good move up and then some build and some high lows somewhere like that. If it was looking for longs, but definitely the weekly's heading south. It's had a good sell down, and you can see that on the daily charts pretty much since August last year. So getting on the year now, it's been heading south. Been trying to go higher, struggling. That pop up here through 30. People reacted that by selling the hell out of it. Took out the most recent high low just through here, and then bang, you can see that the move, that roll over there and that pop up. So that buying through here again was quite strong, but it's just struggling. And then you got it gapped up on the open and then sold from there. So gapped up above 30 and then bang, that was a good strong. So this move up here was met with selling fairly quickly, and then you got another move down. So yeah, weak. All right, guys, anything else? Just going to see what's happening. We're up at 34. Haven't moved that much since we've been looking. And just trying to check out a few of what we got. Nothing's moving that much. Annette. A found chat. I hope you haven't been looking at it for the last hour or so. Yeah, it's a bit of a bugger, but it's good to see. So you can jump in and ask a few questions. My question, do you take successive entries as market moves up and down? Oh, stochastics. Stochastic we set as 11. I think you probably have 11.33. This one we've only got the one. Let me just see. 11.33. There you go. Smooth. Percent D is at 3. I don't take too much account of those two. Just see what happens. Yeah, I don't take too much account there. 11, but 11. I think we're looking at the percent K as 11. Successive entries. Yeah, be happy to take successive entries, but obviously Wednesday. Yeah, no, not yet. I've got to do that today there, Paul. Open trades pretty much down to 3 at the moment. With these moves down, we haven't been hurt, but it's just the trades we had of late have gone up well and then just stagnated. So you're sort of sitting there. You're not forced out of the market only just recently, but I didn't mind tightening up the risk a bit just because what happened the last few days, and it could be we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I think so there, and that slow stochastic. So I'll put up those trades. Successive entries, Annette. Yeah, more than happy. The only things I guess we could say for example, if you're looking at shorts on this one, okay, entering short here, and then when you start getting it pop back up, I'd probably be out of that. And then you got this contraction higher, and then you got a major lower high. So then I would be looking for potentially if you shorted it in here, say for example, I wouldn't potentially look to take all these little moves down. I'd be riding that because I see that as one leg down, and I see that as one leg down that's starting to get a bit cooked on the downside recently. So in that respect, okay, we'll look at that. In that respect, I wouldn't be taking, selling here, buying, or trying to buy here, buy it back, and then re-entering short and trying to buy back if we get these little pop-ups, because I see that as just all part of the one move lower. Whereas selling it in here, you get this nice, healthy, longer-term move high, struggled up at 5, look for your lower high, say you sold it through here, this little short, sold it through here, and then you got pop back up, wouldn't be too concerned just yet. You tried to go lower here, and I probably would have tightened my stop up just above that higher low. Okay, at one stage it was looking like it was going to keep going down, but then you got this reaction back up, so a stronger reaction, and then you know that, okay, that's end of that sort of move lower, pop back up, then you built that, we struggling up here, major lower high, and then you get these sorts of selling it into here, start of a new leg lower. It's taken a lot of time, but I guess that's what I'm trying to say there. You got to look at it as what the move is, and with respect to what chart, respect to what time frame you're trying to trade. But yeah, be happy if it's looking, say on the weekly. I'm just trying to find a daily chart on something that's on the upside. At the moment, I don't have it. Say this move here. Say you bought into this way back. It's 2016. You thought this looked great. This is RSG. You bought into it. There's a little pullback here. I wouldn't be too concerned about that because it's all part of a healthy move. I'll be looking for a partial, and then, maybe I took a partial. Let's just start again. Say we bought it with this pop up here. We've got the little high to work off, bit of contraction. We bought into it here. We've got that leg up there. I probably would have taken a partial there, bit of a pullback, give myself a bit of room, potentially the remaining stop below here because that's potentially a new leg higher, and as it turned out, it did work its way. You can re-enter the second half. I'm not a massive fan of that. I'd rather just let it work out itself. I hope that answers your question. So FWD, Dav's favourite. Looking good. Not much to say there. The weekly, I think, is the key. If we just get back to... Just remember this is a weekly trend. So we had to move down into the lows. The key was really, for me, this is Fleetwood FWD, by the way. That was sort of your key through here, off this low. We've pushed down. This action here, where it just popped through the recent low here. It really struggled. It didn't get very fast. So that's a good heads up. Okay, what's happening here? And then you got this move up, washed out the next high. Sorry, the lower high. Okay, that's a really good sign too. Okay, just heads up, what's going on here? Then you've got this retraction, pop back up. It's a lower high potentially. But then you've got this move, higher lows building, and it keeps pushing up into that zone, up into that 220. And you know, after this, what we've seen previously, that's all building a beautiful picture. And this was the weekly, wasn't it? A weekly. So just drilling it down to a daily. Prime entry, you could have been looking through here as it popped back up, take a bit of heat, maybe take some profits off the table. You could have gone again just after this retest to 190 and a pop up, especially through here. That nice entry, you know, just buying into that. It's holding up above at 220, just popping its head through, holding some higher lows, and then if you just bought on the break, obviously the rest is history. It had a really good strong move up. But this, if you can see that, if I can just drill right down onto that. No, I can't. Just in here. That's what I like. You got that push down, back into support, holding a high low. This zone just in here was ideal. Now from here, I think it's had a good accelerated move up to 250. Probably a bit of heat has to come out of that. I think it's got a few days. If we can just see something, hold some higher lows, maybe something like this, a few days around nothing, then you're probably going to get a few people looking to buy and just going, okay, something's looking good here. It's looking like it's got another leg up and then looking to buy into that. So just keep an eye on that one anyway. ADL. What happened there? Alright, don't know what's happening there. ADL, is that the right one? ASL? Just let me know, Annette. What do you think about the short on Qantas? At the moment, I don't see anything, to be honest. God, it could be on the cards, very much on the cards sooner or later. If we go back to the monthly, what's that level? It's heading up into $6 region. It looks like it's gunning for that. And let's just do something if we can. I don't think I can do it on here. I think just look at this is a monthly chart, so I'm just trying to look at something. If you can sort of measure it, I'm just anticipating that move up there is going to be roughly the same, taking us up to that the same distance. It's going to extend up into $6. That's from the monthly as a major resistance zone. I think you're going to get some reaction off there, considering that move from 260. It hasn't looked back. If you go down to the weekly, what's happening on a weekly? Okay, there's no reason to be selling into that just yet. If you are, you sort of really just you're taking a punt, if anything. Looking at the daily, so we're just remembering that $6 is probably going to get some reaction off $6, and on the daily, I don't see that as just shorting just yet. I mean, I wouldn't buy it either. I would not buy that yet. I think that the ball, what is it? ASL. We'll get that in a second there, Annette. The bull has bolted. Or the cow has bolted. Whatever that saying is, I think it's a bit late to be jumping into a long here. I think that's well and truly extended. There's nothing to say, okay, what would you do on the short side? Wouldn't do anything. For anyone buying it up here, good on them. Coming out to that $6 zone, I would be tentative. I'd be more inclined to just be keeping an eye out for shorts, considering what has happened and how strong that move up has been. The horse, the bull, the cow. I knew it was something. Next I was going to say the goat. Does that make sense here, guys, just on that? Paul? Yeah, we'll see how we go. I'll be ringing you up whether you're right or wrong there, Paul, in September. I'll keep an eye on that. If you're right, I want to know why. If you're wrong, I'm just going to give you some stick. All right, so are we coming through loud and clear there, guys? Yep. All right, I just saw something. So, yeah, Qantas ASL, last one before we... This was something we're looking at. Okay. I do like this. The weekly is what I like probably the most. Oh, it didn't happen again. I don't know how I'm doing that. All right. Just draw this up. I mean, it's probably quite obvious what's happening here. Let's drill some good price action. Just want to see if that's looking okay. Now, if anyone that knows, I've got my daughter here. She's causing havoc out there somewhere. So we've had that move down. We've broken up and out quite clearly, broken through some key levels. Now this price action I like, pushed down, popped back up, built the lower high, held a higher low, which I find really nice price action. We just pushed out through that there. We just come up to a few key levels in that. So I want to see, and I think we're extended on the upside. We're just below that 190 as well. So if you go down to the day, so just keeping that in note, the key areas we're coming up into. Going down to the daily, if we just take a look at this most recent price action here, it's looking good. So I'm really just looking for a bit of a lining up. Just get that, we'll get that through there. It's popped through that 170. We're just taking out the recent highs there. Just remembering that was at 190, I think, on the day, on the weekly. A bit of resistance up there. So I think I would like to see just a bit of a healthy correction. So we pushed up, that's that leg up. If we can draw that. That's off that support. We're just pushing up into that, well, that's not right. Pushing up into that resistance zone there. And we're just backing off. So I would just like to see, this is what I'm aiming for. I mean, could be wrong, and this is where I'm occasionally lately just getting caught a bit. Things are going on without me, and they're getting extended on the upside. Is the year of the rooster? Is it the rooster? On this bull market in history since GFC. Yeah, that's true. But it's just that key point that I read before. I mean, you've got to go with the flow, obviously, but keep in mind where you are in the context of the bigger picture. And like I said, on the Dow and all the US, pretty much, there's a lot of short sellers that are thinking the same thing, but anticipating. There's nothing technically that said we're rolling over just yet. All right, we've got a few bears jumping in. Don't disagree that we probably are due for something to happen, but I'm not going to preempt it. That's the way I view it. And you can see that probably the whole of the ASX is starting to look like they're preempting it a bit, but there's still fuel for the upside. There's still some reasons why this market can pop up and just keep washing people out that have preempted in the US anyway. So let's see if we follow suit. Now back to ASL. What I'd be looking for, what I'm sort of looking for is that pullback, a deeper correction, just to wash out a few of these longs, and then building a higher low from here. And I want to see that to take us through, up and through, and just smash through 170. These highs up here at 170, and then at least 192. Maybe pop through 190 just to see how we go. But at least there, if we can see that type of price action, I know what my risk is going to be. I know it's going to, could be if we do get that. And I'm gunning for, say, 190, 180. I think there's going to be a 2-to-1 trade in that at least. The rooster has bolted. So does that make sense on that one there, Anne-Marie? Sorry, Annette, sorry. Anne-Marie, if you're listening, how you going? All right, we'll probably have to call it a day there. All right, so where did the competition go? So we reckon early August to September. All right, I'll have to remember. What are we now? June, July, August. So we'll see how we go. All right, guys. We'll call it a day there. We'll knock it on the head. But thanks very much for joining us, guys. I hope that was useful. And you can see just some ideas on the short side. Just to, if we are starting to roll and struggle, if there's something setting up on the short side, it could be time to grab a few shorts out there if you do. The long side, we've still got the longs up until, what are we saying, August, September. So don't worry about that. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us, guys. And we'll be back in on Monday. And just keep an eye out. We're going to get something organised. Hopefully, Dav and I will get something organised for the meetup group. But we'll let you guys know as well. So we'll be advertising to the meetup group. There's quite a few in there joining in. And then that'll be applying to you guys too. We'll let you know on the alerts. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining us, and we will speak to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.